Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest of today. His name is Steve Levine. Steve spent 20 years in the commercial alarm business, building a successful residential and commercial alarm business company, yet something was missing. He was very supportive and passionate of the green movement and wanted to add value in that area. After seeking the right opportunity, Steve pivoted his career and started AtmosAir Solutions, an indoor air purification company that provides green bipolar ionization indoor air purification products for businesses, hotels, cruise ships, sport facilities, and hospitals and medical offices. Besides cleaning air, their products also reduce the energy demand and lower the building operating costs. Due to, or maybe even thanks to COVID, sales exploded because AtmosAir products reduced the spread of the virus with an efficiency above 99.9%. Hi, welcome, Steve.
Thank you so much, Erwin. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, well, I'm feel honored almost to have you as a guest, Steve. So tell me about this career pivot. I think it's already 15 years ago that you decided to pivot your career.
Well, when I got out of school, I said we were in the security alarm business. As I learned as an intern, my father had a distribution company in the burglar and fire alarm business. And I worked in this business for now 19, 20 years. My dad and I were partners, and we built a business on saving lives and protecting property around security. And It was a great business. We started in residential, pivoted to commercial, and eventually went national, where we would monitor homes and businesses alarms with our central station in Greenwich, Connecticut. And from that business, that really helped people, because that's my passion, how we can help people create in this business cleaner and healthier lives. In that business, it was about saving lives and property. And truly, in this business, once the pandemic hit, I felt back in the security business about saving lives and property again. So it's really been an interesting pivot, and really I can talk to the history of how that happened, in this conversation.
Yeah, I could totally imagine that, Steve. So those air purification systems, you didn't have all those clients, the hospitals and the businesses and the medical offices and the hotels all at once, right? So what business did you start your air purification systems?
So we started as an air testing company. After 19 years in the security business, I sold the security business, and we said, let's start an air testing business and go into buildings, go into hospitals, schools, hotels, office buildings, and test the air quality. We wanted to see what the exact air quality issues were in a building. And we found out that there were about 8 different elements of air quality that needed to be measured. Mm-hmm. Everything from CO2 levels to particle levels to VOC levels. And then we would analyze the air quality and then write a report around what the air quality was, because obviously air quality is invisible. But if you can really understand what we're breathing, I think that's very important to measure the air quality inside versus outside, so that people have a realization of what they're breathing. And from that initial business of air monitoring and air management, we found a technology in Europe. It's an actual great story. We found this technology in Europe after looking at all the different technologies around, and this technology actually takes out of the air everything you shouldn't be breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And we branded this technology AtmosAir.
Nice. It triggers something inside of me that you don't hear that much anymore. But back in the days, you heard something like sick buildings where people were going to work and they actually got sick in the building. Would you think that's also part of the air quality in those buildings?
Yeah, no question, no question. What the government says, and really around the world, the air quality in buildings is much worse than the air quality outside. Even in some of the worst areas around the world, the air quality inside, because of carpet and machines and people, is not efficacious. It basically is all these particles and things like that you can't see, even down to mold spores. So this sick building syndrome was people that were realizing that when they got to work and were sitting in those type of environments, that they actually felt sick, and the term sick building syndrome arose. So this is what I guess started people really understanding what the air quality and the environmental quality was like, inside of a building environment.
Yeah, and it actually makes sense because I think most of those buildings also didn't have windows that could open, so you couldn't let the fresh air inside of the room. Indeed.
Absolutely, it's all about the air ventilation. You have to have good movement of air, good ventilation. The way our technology started, believe it or not, is Einstein's sister got sick with tuberculosis, and she was told the best place to get better, feel better, was at the top of a mountain. So she went to the Alps, and she was at the top of the mountain. Yeah, everybody understood that there's always a cleaner, healthier air. Well, Einstein wanted to understand why. Why is the air so much better at the top of a mountain than at sea level or even inside of a building? And he found out that there was a natural process going on at the top of the building, a process around conductivity, and what was creating this conductivity at the top of a mountain were these negative and positive ions.
Mm.
And so he developed this theory. He measured there were so many ions at the top of a mountain, but then as you start coming down the mountain, the ions were depleted because of pollution, because of emissions. And when you got down to those larger cities, the ion content was basically nil. So Einstein's friend that went to university with him, Conrad Habicht, he actually developed a tube that would create these ions. And after World War II, they started to commercialize this tube and put it into very odorous environments, airports, commercial buildings,
Mm-hmm.
areas with fumes, and what these ions tend to do is they attach to particles and spores and make the particles bigger and heavier,
Yeah.
so that they're much easier to pull out of the air. So it was really an unbelievable technology, and this is the technology that we found, and we got our arms around the technology. Probably didn't know what we had in the very beginning, But we wound up acquiring this technology and bringing it over to the United States. And this technology would complement our indoor air testing business. And that's actually how the business started to come together.
Nice. A great history teaching as well, Steve. Thank you for that. So,
Sure.
and then the pandemic hit, with the COVID, the virus, an airborne virus, so to speak.
Yeah.
Were you immediately triggered that your systems could add something to that pandemic?
Well, we didn't know initially. We knew that this tube, the technology was very good at taking particles out of the air, making little particles bigger and heavier so that it would pull the particles out of the air much faster. We knew that it was very good when it came down to taking odors out of the air, because when you ionize an odor or a VOC, it would break down the odor into carbon dioxide and water vapor. So it smelled fresh and clean, just like the mountains. And we knew that it had an effect on things like neurovirus and staph, because we tested this over the years, but we had no idea that it would have an effect on coronavirus. So we actually sent the technology to a group called Microchem, which is an FDA and EPA approved lab. And we said, test this, because the virus came and people wanted to know if our technology would have an effect. And when the results came back, it showed that we reduced the coronavirus by 99.92% inside of 30-minute time frame. So
Wow.
that was revolutionary for us. And once we got that message out there, everybody wanted this technology. So it was a very powerful message. And that's why I meant in the beginning, we didn't know what we had initially. We didn't know we would have a technology that one day might change the world and really help people create, these cleaner, healthier environments, because this probably won't be the last pandemic. There'll be potentially other issues, but this is a proactive technology that can really attack contaminants.
Yeah.
And even on the virus, these little protein spikes, when the ions penetrate the virus, actually poke a hole into the virus, it deactivates it. So it's very powerful.
Oh yeah, I truly believe that, and it's also wonderful how you explain how it's actually working. Those ions attaching to the pollution, so to speak, and hearing this, you could consider the virus as well as some sort of pollution in the air, so that it becomes heavier. You can filter it out. It's amazing how they discovered that and how you were able to use it for good force, so to speak. I remember that one of my business coaches once said that when you're growing your company, you have to think of a lot of things, to imagine what would it mean if your company would get 3 times the number of clients. Would you be prepared at that? When the pandemic hit and the word came out that your solutions, your products were actually what you said, proactive, helping in controlling the disease, the spread of the disease. I think your company grew a little bit more than 3 times its turnaround and sales. But how did you cope with that explosion, so to speak?
Well, I feel it's all about surrounding yourself with great people, right? Because no one business is all about one person. It's creating this team. It's making sure that everybody is pulling on the same side of the rope as a team, and it's surrounding yourself with people, I think, smarter than yourself, that are expert in the different disciplines in a business. Yes, we can educate the marketplace, but you have to have a great operations team, to execute. You have to have a great service team, to have that sense of urgency to be on top of the installations, and then a great finance team, to help keep things together. We grew initially in that first year over 800%. I
Wow.
mean, so it was really off the charts. We were adding people. We had a human resources department to add people and make sure the onboarding process was correct. But it was all about, also the culture, helping people, being able to be essential in this critical time uh, where people were depending on us, being able to, when the call came in, turn that around and turn the installation around. We had some very, very meaningful calls, but my dad always taught me it was, it's not what you expect, it's what you inspect. And so you really have to make sure that you're inspecting, the quality of our technology. Everybody has to have the same, sense of urgency across the board. And overall, hopefully everybody realizes that what we're doing is so meaningful to be able to, save lives, protect property, and, create these healthier environments. I mean, that's very meaningful. And it's not just about the money. We don't think about the dollar signs at all. If you do the right thing by people, the dollars take care of themselves. And so we've always had that philosophy in the company.
Yeah, wonderful. And it's also what I tell my clients as well, that money shouldn't be the goal. Money should be the result of the value you add to the market.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We have people that are very passionate about sustainability, about clean air. The world today is all about environmental, social governance, ESG, and so I really feel we're on a mission, to change the world. And again, it's not about the dollars. It's about doing the right thing and helping people and educating everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's been our mission, and that will continue as we hopefully one day we'll be installing this technology in planes and trains and automobiles. It won't just be brick and mortar buildings. It'll really take it and scale to the next level in all of these disciplines.
Yeah, indeed. And I was already thinking about it. You're already doing hospitals, cruise ships. So next step, would that indeed be airplanes, trains, public transportation, stuff like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we have when we first brought the technology over, and it was commercial, putting it into these commercial buildings, we developed a residential unit, just because everybody that wants clean air in their buildings will want clean air in their homes. And so we wanted to develop a unit that would work in either area. So we have these units that go in the duct system or in the air system, and the planes have the same central air systems. The transportation vehicles have the same, buses and trains have the same vehicle central system, and so do cars. When you turn on your air conditioning system in your car, if you had this little tube that would create the ions that would get pushed out by the fan, you would really be able to clean up the air inside of vehicles as well. And so we've done this. We just, we haven't focused on it as much as we have bricks and mortar, but I believe we can put the technology inside of any air system where air would be moved. And if people didn't have a central system, we have these portable units that have fans in them that can push the ions out as well. So the key is to saturate, the interior environment with these ions. You're never going to make it like a mountaintop. And I don't want to claim to be the silver bullet, but if you can add this technology as one more layer of protection, it will really enhance the overall air quality and protect people when it comes to things like viruses that we've just experienced.
Yeah. So, does this technology is also still used for the tuberculosis where it actually initiated of?
Yeah, well, in hospital environments, especially, there's very large issues that are going on in hospitals with different types of bacteria, viruses, and germs. And even in environments like sports facilities, we work with most of the major sports teams when it comes to their training facilities and their stadiums. Our goal and our effort, Erwin, was always if we could put our systems in these large stadiums where we might have 60, 80,000 people, and we could educate them that they're breathing cleaner, healthier air and why and how that's happening, then that message would filter down to colleges, would filter down to schools, and eventually filter down to the consumer. And that's how our business model initially started, because we didn't have all the evidence we do today about the effectiveness of the bipolar ionization in hospitals. But now we do, and whether it's tuberculosis or whether it's the different type of viruses or even staph or MRSA, the technology is very effective because it's proactive. Most filtering systems are passive. Filters are trying to catch what goes through it, and they're effective, especially in hospitals that might have HEPA filters and whatnot, catching most everything. But our technology goes on the supply side of the air and is proactive. So we're actually sending these ions out in the space and attacking the contaminants in the space before they get to the filter. So we're actually making filters that much more effective. And that's why, especially in hospitals where disease can transmit so quickly to others, that you have to attack these contaminants quickly, and then let the filters be able to catch and grab things that go through it more effectively. And now you'll have a better overall result.
Nice. And it just triggers something in me, because I've got a technical background myself. Could, as a side business, so to speak, could it also be something for clean rooms where they work with the microcontrollers, where dust has to be eliminated and stuff like that?
Yeah, so clean rooms, and we do a lot of business in data centers, where dust and small particulate, is really got to be filtered out of the air much quicker. So adding this into those type of applications, even down, when you look at a particle that's floating in the air and the sunlight hits it just right, you can tell that that those particles, you can see them. Those are what we call PM10 particles, because you can see them, but it's the ones that you can't see, the PM 2.5 particles or the PM 1.1 particle. The ions don't distinguish between particles. They bind them together. They make them bigger, heavier, so that they're easier to filter out of the air. And so in clean rooms and those type of environments, we're going to accelerate the process to take those particles out of the air. Also, the ionization process, because we're delivering a specific type of ionization, we call it dielectric barrier discharge, DBD, bipolar ionization. It gives you the right amount of negative ions and the right amount of positive ions. And what that tends to do is neutralize static. So if you're in a clean room or you're in a data center where static is very, very important to neutralize,
Mm-hmm.
this is another benefit to the technology as well.
Nice. So what I'm hearing is that the opportunities are almost endless, Steve.
It's truly every indoor environment, and as a business, you try to focus on the environments where you're going to really make the most amount of success, where people are congregating more. Commercial office buildings, for example. I mean, we put this throughout the Empire State Building. We put this throughout large corporation headquarters. We've done, like you said, cruise ships. When the pandemic happened, one of the biggest cruise lines, Norwegian, came to us and said, we want your system throughout our ships to ensure this additional layer of protection. So it's endless, whether it be a small office space where you're a tenant in an office building, to a complete hospital, to even a hotel room. We're working with some of the larger hospitality companies to put this inside of their individual, what we call fan coil units or heat pump units. These are air conditioning systems within a 300 square foot hotel room. So when people check in and have a hopefully a good sleep experience, that they're also breathing this cleaner, healthier, AtmosAir, in the process. So whether it's a smaller, 300 square foot facility, whether it's a large 1,000,000 square foot facility, the technology's been able to scale, and we've been able to adapt to really all facilities, even churches, schools, sports facilities, restaurants, any indoor environment where you have a central air system, that can move the air. And then, as I said, if they don't have central air, because I'm up in New England and not everybody has central air system, then we can put these portable units in, strategic areas to get those ions flushed into the buildings or into the homes as well.
Nice. And your business is not only limited to the United States, right? It's a global business right now.
Sure. Well, we opened offices in the UK. We opened office in Dubai. We opened an office in Shanghai. So yes, you're 100% right. It's a global business, and we've been able to help many people, many facilities throughout the world right now, and it continues to grow. We haven't opened up necessarily in South America, although we've done certain jobs there when people have called for our system. But maybe that's the next frontier, opening up into South America as well.
Nice. So with regards to your mission or your purpose, so to speak, to offer clean air to everybody, that's I would say you're rather right on track.
Well, You take a look back when we first started, 2004, maybe clean air wasn't thought about as much. It was more, people were thinking about water, people were thinking about energy, but maybe not everyone was thinking about air quality because it's invisible. You couldn't see it, maybe. And really over the years, whether it be the movement on health and wellness, the movement on, overall environmental social governance, people have looked at this and said, this is a great business today because maybe the pandemic got everybody's eyes opened. Like you said, sick building syndrome also was a catalyst, but it really was when the pandemic happened, people really started paying attention to what was in the air. And so we started developing these sensors that could read the air quality on a real-time basis. And so now we've turned the invisible visible with these type of sensors, so that, and we made them part of the system. So when somebody walks into a building, they can tell from these sensors what's the air quality outside, and then what's the air quality inside with this AtmosAir system running, so that they would see a much better air quality inside than outside, unless you're on top of a mountain in the Alps, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's really been important and a catalyst to really turn the invisible visible and have people more educated on what they're breathing, and how we can take those bad things, those contaminants, and pull them out of the air, so that they're breathing cleaner, healthier air.
Yeah, nice. So one thought that came to mind as we were talking about this: have you ever been to the Alps, Steve?
So I've been to the Alps, and I've been to, when I grew up as a kid, I lived in Colorado, and there was a mountain there called Pikes Peak.
Mm-hmm.
And, very high elevation. People, go to the mountains to train in the mountain environments. And it's just like a clean, pristine air quality, for the reasons I mentioned earlier. So I never thought that living, or going to the mountains and knowing that the correlation that we would be in this business never would have occurred to me. But the fact is, if you can get that same feeling, if you can get that same crisp, healthy air, the same air that you feel in a mountain environment, in your home, in your business, or maybe one day driving a car, this is what drives me now.
Yeah.
How do we get this technology out to everybody to be able to use,
And it just triggered me again, because you said, people, you had Pikes Peak in Colorado. People are going to the mountains to train on high altitude, as I understand it correctly, because it's improving your condition and your skills. You're making more red blood cells, as I understand it correctly. But does it has to do with the altitude? It's also to do with the air, the clean air.
I believe, people were sent to the mountains, that would have health issues. What is it? 1 out of 4 people have allergies and asthma. So it's really important for them, that we take all these, contaminants out of the air, especially the particles, especially the spores. I think that's really important. When you're in the mountains and you have this natural conductivity of these ions, you don't have the dust, and don't have the spores, because these ions are more prevalent. There's such a thing as an ion meter, where you can measure the ion content at the top of a mountain, just like you can measure it inside of a building. And again, if you can take those and capture those ions that are at the top of the mountain and infuse them into your building, yeah, it's not going to make it like a mountaintop, but it will change the composition and make it 3 to 4 times more ions than maybe the baseline was. And then let those ions, like little Pac-Man, find those contaminants and pull the bad stuff, out of the air.
Yeah.
So I really believe we can bring a little bit of that mountain environment to every indoor facility.
Nice. Nice. And I also think that having such a strong belief is actually also motivating you to take the steps to achieve it, right?
Well, yeah, my dad taught me early on, and I kind of lived by certain principles, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
the A, B, C, D, and E principles of my life, and that is, the A is the attitude, right? I want to have
Mm-hmm.
this great attitude every day, because I believe we're doing something to benefit everyone. And B, I have the belief in my technology and our technology that creates this cleaner and healthier air, and we measure it. We've had those results, so I know we're making a difference. But you also have to have the C, right? The commitment. If you wake up every day and you're committed to making a difference, and they have to have the D, right? You have to have the discipline to see the commitment through. You can have all the commitment, but if you don't have the discipline every day to see it through, and then E, the enthusiasm, right, is
Mm-hmm.
contagious. And if we can bring that enthusiasm with what we do, I've always told my kids, if you can find something that you really love to do, where you can make a difference, in your work environment, that it's not really work. It's just you have that passion, and you don't have to love what you do like I do. It will help, but at least like it. If you don't like what you do, then you should find and do something else. So
Yeah.
I've actually found a love for helping people and making a difference, whether it be in my first business, in the security business, saving lives and protecting property, or in this business, creating cleaner, healthier air quality for people to breathe. And maybe now with the pandemic, we are saving lives, and back in that same business. And I, uh, I really think we're making a difference out there.
Nice. And those are some great values you shared with us, Steve. That's wonderful to hear. And I believe that if you have those principles, those core values, and you can share with your team members, and everybody aligns with that. You don't have to have the same values, but at least when they align with it, then you're building long-lasting relationships with your partners, with your employees, and it's wonderful to build a business based on that.
Well, and people catch that passion, as you say, or that enthusiasm for what you're doing, and people, especially in air, become very proud that they have the best air quality, and they've been able to bring that to their associates. I agree with you 100%. It's all about relationships. We want to create those great, long-lasting relationships, and the way you do that is by bringing your message across. I To me, I live this every day, so I want to just spread the word about the technology, but every day we're creating these new relationships. Every day we walk into a new opportunity. And I've created so many friends that want to help spread the word. And we have a great team at the company that is growing every day to continue to spread the word. It's there's no ego here. All I want is for people to understand that we can bring this technology to help so many. And truly, I tell the company every day, we're changing the world. So we just have to keep bringing that message and bringing that passion. And then
Yeah.
when customers experience it, they really feel it and see it and want to tell others about it. So yeah, it's really it's incredible the position we're in right now.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to hear that, Steve. It's almost like you've created a community, a movement that's taking this to the next level.
Well, I guess you can look at it that way. Yeah, I mean, it's a my people say that water. You need water to live, and obviously you need air to live as well. But really taking it down to the level of creating the best air quality. Back to the mountain conversation. There's a study and fact about people that live in the mountains live 3 to 5 years longer than people that live in cities. Why is that? Because they're not breathing all those contaminants and whatnot. So yeah, I think that this is important for hopefully establishing longer, healthier lives, and that's really vital today. And our people understand that, and we're trying to again just spread that message.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful message, Steve. I have a feeling we could talk for hours on those subjects and how you're changing the world in a positive way. If you could share a little tip or piece of wisdom with the audience, what could it be, Steve?
Well, I would go back to my ABCDE, way of life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have the right attitude. You got to have the right belief. You have to be committed every day with the right discipline to carry it through. And you have to have the enthusiasm. And if you can love what you do, and find your passion, and be able to create and give that message to others, it really is a great way of life, and it's a great way to ultimately help others. And so those are the messages. I hope those are the takeaways. Yes, we happen to be in the clean air business, and we happen to be helping a lot of people, but that's what it's all about. And so find your passion and do it with those principles, and hopefully love what you do every day.
That's a great message, Steve. I hope a lot of listeners will pick up on that. So if people want to know more about you, Steve, or more about your company, or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So the company banner is Clean Air Group. We go under the AtmosAir name of Clean Air Group. So they go on AtmosAir.com. It's very easy to just log on to the website. You'll see it filled with lots of great information. So AtmosAir.com, AtmosAir. That's the best place to find us, and we're always available. We're always there to help.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Steve, for this very interesting and inspiring story, and also explaining how the technique works. It was a real eye opener for me. I wish you all the best in the company, and let's stay in touch.
I look forward to it, Erwin. Thank you so much for today.